Okay, so Eric, I didn't spend much time talking to you between. I do have a question. When you're dealing with somebody that's an atheist or this non-believer, how do you, without, because getting into a debate can often push them away. How do you do that without pushing away and get them to draw in closer?
Yeah. So making a conversation, especially by asking specific questions. Greg Coco has a good book called Tactics. It's a really good book I'd recommend. But one thing I like to do is ask why it is, ask of anyone of any religion or lack of, whether it's a Mormon or Jehovah's Witness or an atheist. I say, so do you believe X? So if they're, let's say, an atheist, they might define it differently. So I start with, do you believe God does not exist? If they say yes, I say, why? I listen to what they have to say. So the goal is to have a good conversation, not necessarily engage in a debate to where there's altercation. So, for example, there was a young girl one time I was talking to, and I said, do you believe God does not exist? She said, yes. I said, what evidence do you have for that? Because in philosophy, there's something called the burden of proof. If you make a claim that something's true, you bear the burden to prove it. So that's why I started with the question, do you believe God does not exist? Yes. Okay. What evidence do you have? And her response was, well, there is no evidence for the existence of God. I said, well, I disagree, but let's pretend that's the case. That wouldn't prove there is no God. So I ask again, what is your positive evidence for your belief that there is no God? Because, for example, I have no evidence that there's a flea in this room. I have no evidence for it. Can I conclude that therefore there is no flea? No, because there could be a flea, I just don't have evidence. So my lack of evidence of a flea being in this room doesn't entail that therefore I can conclude there is no flea. So I said, so again, what is your evidence that there is no God? She said, well, I believe in things like science, and I believe in history, and this. I said, now you're just naming disciplines. One more time, what evidence do you have there is no God? So at this point, I'm not arguing. I want to hear what you have to say. And then I had one person say, well, you can't prove there is no God. I said, okay, so you have no evidence that there is no God? No. But at the beginning of the conversation, you told me you only believe things because there's evidence for it. So what am I missing? So again, we're having a conversation. Don't be so quick to jump in and try to give a response to something, especially if they're not giving an argument against what you believe. Someone once said to me, well, I don't believe in fairy tales. I said, cool, me neither. So what do you want to talk about next? There's nothing to respond to there. Someone said, I don't believe in God. Well, how about you explain to me what God you don't believe in, because chances are I don't believe in that God that you don't believe in either. So let's get on the same page here. I don't believe in talking snakes. Me neither. Yep, there's one in the Bible. Okay, so you're talking about, well, let me ask you this. If God did exist, is it at least possible that a snake could have been used and maybe vocalize something, if that were the case? Assuming it is even a snake in the first place. If God exists, are those things at least possible? Yes. Okay, so it seems the issue here is not necessarily whether or not a snake can talk naturally, but whether or not God exists. So let's focus on that first. So it's a matter of getting on the same page to where you can have a fruitful discussion as opposed to talking past each other. To where, again, I'm saying, well, I believe God because of something like, or here's some evidence we know why it's reasonable to believe God exists. We give the kalam like Mark gave, and they say, yeah, but look what God did in the Old Testament. Well, let's set that aside for a second. Let's finish this one first. So, having a conversation, asking questions, getting on the same page, not trying to respond and answer something that's not even an objection, like I don't believe in fairy tales. Well, that's just not an objection. You're just giving me you're just telling me your preference. Cool, me neither. Let's get on the same page, have a fruitful dialogue, ask the right questions, and be genuine. Genuinely listen to what they have to say. I'll end with this. In talking about the soul, I was talking to one atheist, and he said, well, there's just no evidence for the soul. And I said, really? I said, yeah. I said, well, have you looked any up? He goes, yeah, no, I've looked. There's just no good arguments. I said, oh. So I opened up my tablet, and I said, can you name me the top 3 arguments that people give for the soul? And he said, well, I don't remember them. It's been long. I said, okay, it's fine. Understandable. I get it. Well, how about this? Give me the top 2 or 3 books that you read on it. I haven't read any books on it. Oh, huh. So where did you get this idea that there's no soul, there's no evidence? Well, I haven't heard any. Well, that's a different claim than what you said in the first place. In other words, let's get on the same page. You listen to what they say, respond with respect and gentleness, as the Bible says. But don't let little things slide like, oh, well, there's just none of this. Okay, well, tell me, what have you heard? That way I can know where you're at. You can see where I'm at, and we can try to have a good, fruitful dialogue.